Hello Newcastle Startup Week and welcome to my imagination studio. I know that the theme of this Startup Week is about start something new. So what I'd like to do is talk about ideas and how that you can transform those ideas into reality. So I'd like to introduce you to one of my little friends here. Well, this is Mickey Mouse, and I'll tell you a bit about his story and how he's kind of come in and influenced my life. You're probably a bit intrigued by what's going on around me. Some people think that maybe I work from a child's bedroom. No, this is my creative studio, and it's full of all the things that kind of inspire me. So I've got things like behind me here, I've got a storytelling suitcase that I take out when I do talks. I've got characters that I've invented. I've got globes that inspire me from around the world. Maps are so important for me. And then books and yeah, all sorts of things, even some Lego over there because I've done a Lego serious play. So I want to take you through a little bit of a kind of process, the way that I think about ideas, what I believe about ideas, and how you can transform them into reality. So if you think about it, everything starts with an idea. So if you look around you, everything, everything in this room, everything you've created, your business idea that you've got, whether you've started the business or whether you're about to launch the business, it all starts with an idea. So the thing is, if everything starts with an idea, how do you then transform that into reality? And the other thing about ideas is not every idea actually even comes to fruition. So some ideas die. They don't even get a chance to breathe. And it's like, why would that happen? Because what I try and do is help people so that the ideas come to life. So let's think about ideas. As I say, everything around us was created in somebody's imagination when they started off. And I've worked for the big three in my career. So I've worked for Santa Claus, Willy Wonka, and Mickey Mouse. Now, they all started as an idea in somebody's imagination. And the likes of my friend here, Mickey, gone on to become global brands. So it's like, what's the difference? How can some ideas start off in somebody's imagination and then become really powerful? And how come other ideas just, fritter off and die or don't even make it to the real world? So what I've discovered on my journey, as I say, working for the big three, first of all, I worked for Santa Claus by designing Christmas decorations for all of the major shopping centres throughout Europe. And what I would do when I came up with the ideas for that is I would capture them on a mind map. So for me, maps are so important. If you have a look around this room, it's covered in maps. If you are going to go on a journey, if you are going to build something, start something. So if you're going to build a house, you would have an architect's plan. If you're going to go on a journey, you might look at a map, or these days you might program a sat nav. If you are going to start something, you would normally start with a plan of action. So maps and plans are really important to get ideas out of your head and into the real world. So there's a lot of businesses, if you think about it, quite often they start without a plan, or they've got a written business plan. And some people might have actually spent more time thinking and planning about where they're going to go on holiday, looking at the maps and stuff for that, than thinking about that big vision about where they're going to take their business. So I think it's really important to get the ideas out of your head and get them onto paper. There's a question here for you. Have you ever thought, oh, I'd love to do this, and come up with this big idea? And then have you ever said, but? Because what I find that happens is a lot of people go, oh, I'd love to do this. And then they go, but. And what they do with the but is they destroy their dreams, they kill the ideas, they squash it flat. And they've not actually given it time to breathe. They've not given it time to grow. Now, my friend here, Mickey Mouse, as I say, I've done some work with Disney. I did an Imagineering course with them. Now, Disney knew that you can't actually think of an idea and curate it in the same room at the same point in time, that they're actually two different kind of sides to your brain. So it's impossible to go, this will be wonderful, you know, but how do we do that? It's just, there's that conflict there, and you don't get the best out of people. So I've got the book up here about Imagineering. Disney had people called the Imagineers, and they were a combination of the creative people, the ideas, the inspired, you know, things that came up with the craziness, and then the engineers, the people that could make it happen. So what they would do is they would combine that, but they would always start off with the vision first, and then later they'd work out the how. So if you think about it, if you go, I'd love to do this, and then you put the but in there, what you've started to do is start thinking about the how. And sometimes, as I say, that if you, when you have a vision about going somewhere, you don't always know the how on that process. All of the big things that have been invented in the world have always started off with an idea, but they didn't know the how. They couldn't have known the how, because if they knew the how, it would already have been done. So things like the Wright brothers, they knew that they wanted to fly. They didn't know how they were going to do that. You know, when we talk about like Edison or so on with the light bulb, they didn't necessarily know how to do that at the beginning. They just knew why. They had the big vision. They started off with that. So a bit of advice here: if you go to that place where you start thinking about, oh, I'd love to do this, and you start capturing your vision, if you find yourself saying but, change the button to a because the word because is empowering, and the word because then becomes your why. So if you think, I'd love to do this because, you've then got your passion, you've then got your purpose, you've got your reason, you've got your vision, you've got the drive to go forward. Obviously, as you're going along that route with your hows, you're going to stumble, you're going to end up with roadblocks. But if you go for the because all the time, you've still got, you know, where to go. And this is another thing that I'm talking about with maps. So what I do is that there's a process that I've invented, and it's been over the years. I'm going to put my friend Mickey Mouse down because I want to introduce you to some other friends. So I say, I've always mapped out ideas. When I was creating displays for some of the biggest shopping centres in the UK and Europe, I had to imagine what those places look like in my mind. So I would, for example, come up with a Christmas display in a Santa's Grotto for a shopping centre in Paris, but I wouldn't have been there. So I was given architect's plans, I was given photographs, and what I had to do was build that in the world of my imagination. What did that look like? And I had to transform that from an idea all the way through to reality and come up with creative solutions on the way, because I was the person that would be in the shopping centre in the middle of the night in October when the place was closed, with my team, having organised all the logistics, and had to get everything from the ground up in the air. By the time morning came, a bit like the elves, you know, it popped in, because we had to disappear by the morning. So that was a lot of planning. And to get the ideas put out there first, to take it from the imagination and into the real world, I would always create a mind map, would map out the ideas. So I'm going to tell you another little story about my friends here, the metronomes. So I want to introduce you to, here's Herbert, and we've got Sherbet, and we've got Maggot, and we've got Rusty. So these are the metronomes. You might have seen them in the Metro Centre. So over 20 years ago, I invented the metronomes, and Metro Centre came to us with their idea, one idea, which was to create a character called the metronome, because they'd paid for Noddy and they paid for Rupert the Bear prior to that, and they'd had to pay the license fee. So they said, can you come up with a character we can use? So they had their purpose, they had the big idea, the imagination for something they wanted to create. Now, at that time, Metro Centre was new, and it was one of the biggest shopping centres in Europe. And it certainly, for anybody that can remember that time, you know, something in the Northeast, it was unbelievable. And often people would get lost in it because it was so huge. I knew from doing the decorations and my love of maps and plans, which I always started with that point, first of all, that there was 4 different coloured malls. So there was the red mall, the green mall, the blue mall. People used to get lost. They would tell the security guards that the car had been stolen, when in fact they'd parked in the yellow mall and they'd gone out the doors for the red mall. So the idea was we built an imaginary world underneath for these characters called the metronomes. So of course, you know, Red Mile became Volcano Land. And that's how we transformed this into reality. Now, ideas are really important, so is storytelling. So these characters also had a personality, they had a backstory, a history. They also lived in a world, you know, so we took something from the world of imagination and created a real world that these characters live in. I'll put those down. So that's the kind of the story of the metronomes, and how putting that down onto a map, putting that down onto paper made it real. And as I say, they're over 20 years old now. So I've continued that process. After 25 years, I got made redundant. And as I was working with clients and trying to help them solve the problems, they would say, can you come up with a display, because I'm going to sell a book. Can you come up with an exhibition stand for that? You know, can you write the copy for my website? All this kind of thing. So I'd always map out the ideas. And it wasn't until I was getting feedback from my clients that they were saying, so I was looking for the solution for them. They were saying, what's that you're doing? And I was like, well, it's just a mind map, it's an ideas map, you know, it's just. And it's interesting, if you say that word just, if somebody says something to you and then you shrug it off and just go, oh, it's just, it's probably your superpower. It's probably the thing that you do that other people think's amazing, you find simple. So I started to listen to that, and then I realized that actually this was a product, this was a service, because I'd done this for 30 years to solve problems, and I could then help other people solve their problems. So whilst, yes, ideas, you know, they talk about the world of the imagination, and ideas they tend to think about that they're up here somewhere. I believe that they're firmly planted. They should be the grounding to everything. So when I create, there's something I create called vision trees for people that want to grow their business. I always suggest that you plant your ideas as the seeds, and then the roots that grow from those are the ideas, but they're categorized. Okay, so if you're thinking about doing different things, you get the ideas out of your head and then you categorize them together. And then what grows out of that with your vision tree is your brand, your products, your services, the people that you need on your team, the tools, the technology, all the practical stuff. But it's grounded in your ideas. Of course, sometimes, you know, some of those roots don't work out. Sometimes some of the branches need to be chopped off, you know, that kind of thing. But it's very important, if you plant the ideas first, you've got then a solid foundation which you can work from. So I've got some examples I can show you of this vision trees. I've worked with the likes of Michael Owen, and you can see his vision tree. Over the years, I've changed that slightly, so it now looks more like a tree structure. I've always planted the ideas at the bottom. And Michael's used it to, when he's gone on a journey with his business and thought about how he's going to change it, he's used it to plant where he's at now. And at the moment, you know, his business has evolved, and some of those branches he's chopped down. Another person I've worked with is Simon Bourne of the Hand-Dyed Shoe Company. When Simon had so many ideas in his head about how he wanted to take his business forward, at that point he wasn't working in it full time. He was working for a sofa company. He had the idea about hand-dyeing shoes, and he'd already started to do that. He didn't have any premises or anything. So we looked at what would that vision look like. And actually, by the end of the process, Simon was sitting in the place that he told me that he visualized. And Simon, reflecting back, listening to your clients and then seeing what they reflect back to you. So Simon was the first person that had framed his vision map. Now, he says to me, he reflects that back as being the history of his company. likewise, Michael says that his vision tree is like a visual business plan that belongs on the wall rather than in a desk. Another person I've worked with is Kate with the All-in-One Company. And I've done this in groups before, and that's okay as long as you're all working towards the same vision. So we got the team together and we mapped out what that looked like. And then Kate calls that the DNA of her business. And she says it's still relevant today because, of course, their big vision hasn't, it's altered slightly, but, you know, the actual goal of the company has remained the same. So it's all about get your ideas out of your head and onto paper. Now, it may be that you have got something that you want to share. So you might be a consultant or you might be a speaker, and you might not actually have a product as such. What you might be selling is your services, your knowledge, the way you take people from pain to gain. So again, if you can categorize that, if you can sum that up into something that you can visually communicate to people, that shows them the process that you're going to take them on. So when I work with clients on that, we start with a vision map, first of all, to get the ideas out of their heads. And then we start categorizing that. And then we start building a framework, a system around that. So for example, one of the businesses that I work for is Polly Brennan. Polly works for the NHS. She's worked for 25 years, an occupational therapist specializing in mental health. And she's got her own business as well called Adventurous Coaching. Now, she's taken all of her techniques, and what we've done is we've categorized those and created a system that she can own to help explain to people how she takes them on this journey from a problem to a solution. So within the mental fitness kit bag, she's got, you know, things like this around her. She's got props, she's got things that she can explain to people. And she's used metaphors. So we start with the story. What's the story you tell yourself? And then you go through your journey, and then you go through wellness, and you end up with adventure, because you can go on this process, this journey that she will take you through to as part of the mental fitness kit bag to help you with your mental wellness. So that's a signature system. That's something that we created with Polly. And I've done that with other people as well. And it's getting the ideas out of your head. So one of them is Soberholic. And again, she's got a process where she takes people from being stuck to having, you know, a life that they would like to live. So if you're an advice sharing business, you might want to consider getting that idea out of your head and onto paper and creating a system that explains to other people, visually communicates how you take them from a problem through to a solution. And that's something that I've developed because another side of my business is I know how to present your brands, your products, your services. Traditionally, that would have been visual merchandising, the old-fashioned shop window. But these days, everybody's got a shop window because you mightn't have a physical shop window. It may be that you had a pop-up shop or a pop-up exhibition stand. These days, you've also got a virtual shop window, actually more so now than ever. So your website, it might be an Etsy shop, something like that. That's your virtual shop window. So I took the skills and the knowledge that I had from my first job doing body shop windows through to doing the displays, and categorized that and created a system which is part of my Visual Marketing Academy. And I teach people the skills that they need, the skills that the big brands use to help you sell your brands, your products, your services. So that's another part of my business. So my business is all about ideas. It's all about transforming the things that are in your head into something that's real. It's about empowering you so that you can do this stuff yourself, so that you take ownership and, as I say, take things that are in your head and make them happen. So a final part that I want to talk to you about, something that I've just done recently, is my visual doodles. And my visual doodles, it's interesting because it's the way that I've made notes as something, a way to remember when I go to talks, to remember people's stories. and the way that they say that you can, you know, do things. So it's a bit kind of a note-taking techniques. What I did with the visual doodles, again, it was something that I did for myself. I didn't put out there. At the beginning of this year, when I was at an event, somebody saw me doing that and said, are you going to put that on social media? Will you share it with us? And it was like, no, it's just rubbish. It's rubbish. And they were like, but that's amazing. And a few people said it was amazing. So I thought, well, okay, then maybe I will be vulnerable. You know, I will share this. And then I was questioning later, why did I think it was rubbish? And it's because that was how I used to get the information to the illustrators in the studio. I would draw a quick doodle, and that was the way I was transforming the ideas from my head onto paper. But of course, that doodle then would end up in the bin because they would create an absolutely wonderful finished illustration. So start to listen to what other people were saying and start to quieten the voice in my head. So what I want to share with you is I'm going to provide a visual doodle, because I believe that we've all got superpowers. We don't always see it in ourselves. So the visual doodle that I want to share with you, it's got in the middle of it, it is about your superpower. And I'd like you to then start exploring around that, create your own vision map about what it is that I believe your superpower. It's made up of things like your experience, your knowledge, your skills. You know, we're all unique. We've all had different things throughout our lives that have influenced us. And those are the things that hopefully you're going to take forward with your business. It's the things that you're passionate about. So on this one page, on this visual doodle, I'd like you to capture those things so that you don't forget what your why is, what your purpose is, because some days it will be difficult, but create it on that sheet, pin it up on the wall, stick it by your desk. Don't put it in the drawer. Please don't put it in the drawer. I mean, you might want to put it in the bin, but I prefer if you didn't put it in the bin. Color it in, doodle on it, write what your vision is, write what your ideas, your passion, your skills, and just use this to empower you to communicate your message, to get your business out there and transform your ideas into reality. So one final thought that I want to leave you with. I've talked about props. I've showed you some of my characters along the way. One thing that I created was thinking about what it is that I do. How do I visually communicate what it is that I do? And it's all about getting ideas out of your head. And normally what will happen is I'll have a client, they'll get their ideas out their head, they'll talk to me, and then I translate that into a doodle or a vision map. So I've got this that helps me with this. I've actually got two. I've got one behind me here. So I've got one for me and one for the clients. It's not compulsory that they wear them. It's more for like a funny photo shoot. But I call this my ideas hat. The inspiration came from it was Ghostbusters, and I've got a husband that's an engineer. You know, I was saying Imagineers, or between the creative people who come up with all this weird, crazy, wacky stuff, and the engineers are practical people that make it happen. So yeah, with John, it was like, John, I've got this colander. Could you make us this this crazy hat? Anyway, this just demonstrates, you know, the idea that you get this stuff out of your head, the stuff that nobody else can see, but you know, and it, you know, it's driving you crazy, and it's up here. And that's what I want to empower you to do. I want you to take your ideas. You know, I'll arm you with one of my little visual doodles so you can put your stuff down on there. Get that out of your head. Get your business moving forward in whatever shape and form that might be. And then I want to leave you with my final quote that I absolutely love. And that's: the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. I've found my why. I hope you have too.